This is Eddie Hearn, Matchroom Boxing. You're watching Sporting Icons. You don't need to be anywhere else.
So yesterday, a statement was released by Stephen Espinoza, head of Showtime Sports, and I'll put an article to this in the description box for you guys to have a read. In other words, like all videos, you don't have to take my word for it, but there will always be a source there to back up what it is that I'm talking about. But obviously don't go there just yet, listen to this video, and then go there, have a read of it, come back, drop yourself a comment, thumbs up, and make sure you are subscribed. Now, Stephen Espinoza, head of Showtime Sports, has rejected Deontay Wilder versus Luis Ortiz. Now, when you read through the article, it's painfully obvious that they were given first refusal. Okay, and there's nothing wrong with that. Showtime, Stephen Espinoza and Deontay Wilder, Shelley Finkel, etc. were all talking about loyalty to each other, okay? Because Showtime, they've been backing Wilder pretty much since he became world heavyweight champion, okay? They've been overpaying him and they haven't really been getting a return on their investment, okay? And that's just factual, okay? If you guys cast your minds back to when Deontay Wilder was supposed to take on his then mandatory Bermane Stiverne, okay? Even though people knew Bermane Stiverne shouldn't have been mandatory, but he was. And Stephen Espinoza said, we ain't showing that. We ain't showing that pile of crap. We don't want that fight. So they forced Wilder into taking a Luis Ortiz fight, okay? So ultimately, Luis Ortiz, he failed the VADA test, if you guys will remember. Then Bermane Stiverne then just came in just to get the mandatory out the way. At this point, Showtime had already agreed to pay Wilder and had already set the date up and all this kind of thing. So then they ended up having to show Wilder versus Bermane Stiverne. But when you look at it all, what Showtime are really about is making money. And so they should be. We've been saying for a long time that it appears that Showtime, these guys are going to pull out of boxing at some point. If not, then there's going to be showing the small kind of shows that people aren't really that interested in. But maybe the pay-per-view days are now finished, potentially at least anyway. But when you go through Stephen Espinoza's reasoning as to why he's not going to be taking the Wilder versus Luis Ortiz rematch, it's painfully obvious that he's saying because this fight isn't going to sell. We are not going to be investing money into this fight and it just doesn't sell. They don't believe in this fight. And the reason being is because Wilder is not a ticket seller. He's not a pay-per-view seller. He doesn't do the numbers that Showtime require for the amount of money that they're having to pay him. And the reason that they're having to pay him so much is because Eddie Hearn and DAZN played their hand, and Stephen Espinoza and Showtime, because they're so anti-DAZN, so anti-Eddie Hearn, overpaid Wilder, and they've pretty much blown their wad. Because if you guys will remember, DAZN, John Skipper, the head of DAZN, and Eddie Hearn offered Deontay Wilder $20 million to take on his then mandatory Dominic Breazeale, okay, which happened to be his last fight. $20 million. That's just for Wilder, okay? Dominic Breazeale, obviously, he gets 25% of another, okay? But either way, they were saying how, yes, it's good money and everything, but fact is we have loyalty to Showtime, and Showtime, they're going to pay us like a lot of money and all this kind of thing. We have a great relationship going. So they ended up overpaying Wilder and got nothing back. There's a very, very realistic chance that they lost a lot of money on that fight. A lot of money. Because Wilder doesn't sell. And I know Wilder fans don't like hearing it. And this isn't to have a go at Wilder, okay? This just shows what the mentality of the American boxing audience is about. And I'll explain what it is that I mean by that. Is that Americans, they will support their own to the hills and back, as long as they feel that their fighter, their American fighter, is doing all they can to get the big fights, okay? The Americans are not too concerned whether or not you take a loss along the way. They're not concerned about that. All they care about is, are you trying? Or are you trying to con us? And I think, going by maybe quite a few things that I see, they don't believe in Wilder that he really wants to fight. He's had way too many fights now and hasn't stepped up. Most notably when he took on Tyson Fury. When he took on Tyson Fury, that was a Tyson Fury that should not have been able to go 12 rounds with Deontay Wilder, regardless of who it is that you think won. But as we know, probably 99.9% of the boxing world realised that Tyson Fury should have got the decision, but didn't. So now maybe a lot of these guys are viewing Wilder as a paper champion. How he allowed some fat guy from England who'd been inactive for 3 years, ballooned up to over 400 pounds, went to America, Wilder's own backyard, where Wilder was supposed to look spectacular and put on a Tyson Fury on his resume, and he failed miserably. In addition to the fact Wilder was running around before the fight saying how he believes that this fight is going to sell between 2 and 2.5 million pay-per-view buys. Ultimately, it turned out to be 320-ish. That is a flop. A major, major flop, especially when you're having to rely on Tyson Fury selling the event. The point is, okay, as I said, this isn't to have a go at Wilder. This is just factual, and people say that, you know, you're hating and you're doing this. No, since when is telling the truth hating? Just because you guys don't want the rest of the world to hear this doesn't mean it's hating, okay? It just means that you just want to protect this man. He's had over 40 fights, and he's been letting down the fight fans of his own country. Boxing fans, Americans, would love nothing more than to support a heavyweight world champion, but they're not gravitating towards Wilder. Quite what that reason is, I can put it down to the fact that he hasn't been fighting the best, that he's been caught out in so many lies, how he wants the Joshua fight, yet he turns down $100 million, and how he wants this fight, and these kind of fights never materialise, okay? He should have been the one that took on Vladimir Klitschko and knocked him out before Tyson Fury did it, and certainly before Joshua did it. But he didn't do it, especially as he's got the same manager as Vladimir Klitschko. It should have been a very, very easy fight to make. He should have took on Charles Martin. Both guys are PBC fighters. If he had took on Charles Martin, he'd have been a unified heavyweight champion right now. But he didn't do it. And this is the whole point. And this is why I believe the American boxing fans just don't gravitate. They don't warm to Deontay Wilder. And it is a shame that they don't. It really is. And the fan base that he does have, for the most part, are just haters and racists. Not all of them, of course not all of them. But the ones that we see here online, especially here on YouTube, this is what these guys perpetuate. This is what they put out. And it just creates a real bad feeling. In addition to the fact a lot of the things that Wilder says and does outside the ring as well will probably make the American audience go, no, we ain't supporting you. Okay, now, Stephen Espinoza, he had first choice to take this fight for a rematch with Luis Ortiz. But quite clearly, it's a fight that nobody was asking for. Nobody wants this fight. Nobody needs to see it. Nobody was calling for it. Now, had the fight have happened, the rematch happened straight after the first one, people would probably go, yeah, fair enough. And in some ways, maybe the first fight should have been on pay-per-view, because this was Wilder's 40th fight and his first step up. But is Luis Ortiz really a step up? We don't know. Okay, he's always just been a guy with some form of hype as a boogeyman, because Tyson Fury started that rumour jokingly and people just ran with it. But he had a little bit of hype. So maybe that first fight should have been pay-per-view. But I say we don't really know how good Luis Ortiz is. And ever since that fight, Luis Ortiz has looked terrible. He's had 3 fights since and looked absolutely terrible. He's really starting to show his age. Wilder has since fought Tyson Fury. Most people agree that he lost that fight. And then he fought Dominic Breazeale. Again, a fight that it's not his fault that he had to fight Dominic Breazeale. That's the WBC's fault. But it's a fight that happened in the way that people knew was going to happen. People knew that Dominic Breazeale shouldn't have been in there. People knew exactly what was going to happen, that this fight was not going past 3 rounds. And a lot of people were saying, be lucky to get out the first round. And that's exactly what happened. So Wilder's stock hasn't gone up. Wilder's stock has gone down. Luis Ortiz's stock has gone down. Now it's a rematch that people look at and go, Wilder, you turned down $100 million to take on Anthony Joshua. Luis Ortiz, you turned down $7 million to take on Anthony Joshua. This is a battle of the Anthony Joshua Duckers. And as I said before, Wilder fans don't like hearing this, but this is the fact of it. This is the truth. This is what a lot of people are viewing this fight as. 2 guys fighting each other because they were too afraid to go fight Anthony Joshua at the time. Now, who knows? Had these guys have stepped up and accepted it, we could have an undisputed in Deontay Wilder. Or Luis Ortiz could be the unified heavyweight champion of the world right now instead of Andy Ruiz Jr. Ultimately, we don't know. Styles make fights, anything can happen, of course. But the fact is, people will look at this fight and go, no, we ain't interested. And to put it on pay-per-view is absolutely ridiculous. So when they talk about loyalty to each other, Team Wilder and Stephen Espinoza of Showtime and that talk about loyalty to each other, they maxed out their money on Deontay Wilder and they're not willing to do it anymore. They're just not willing to do it. They don't want to see Luis Ortiz. They understand that that pay-per-view is going to go badly, badly wrong. Badly wrong. If Wilder vs. Fury can only do 320, what is Wilder vs. Ortiz going to do? Hey, listen, I hope that it does 1 million, 2 million. Honestly, I hope that's what it does, but it just isn't. It just isn't. And people understand that. Stephen Espinoza has finally now admitted that they don't have the budget that they once said that they did. They've been overpaying Wilder, so they've now taken a pass. So ultimately, when Wilder vs. Fury does happen, if it does happen on February 22nd, you can pretty much presume that it'll be Fox that shows that one in maybe a dual collaboration with ESPN. At a guess, okay? Because for me, I think Wilder's days on Showtime are now finished. I don't think that he's going to be fighting on Showtime anymore, because he will see this as a bit of a blunt toward him from Showtime, where he turned down DAZN, loads and loads of money, thinking that he was going to be making this kind of money on Showtime. And Showtime have just shown their hand saying, listen, we ain't willing to lose money on you anymore. We've lost too much money on you now. You don't sell. You just don't sell. And this is the fight that nobody's asking for. Nobody really wants to see it. Listen, it is what it is. But ultimately, Stephen Espinoza just doesn't want this fight, and he's absolutely right to. And Fox Sport, you want to put this on pay-per-view, crack on. But I think Fox Sport can probably afford to take a loss. Okay, because it's a pretty big network, right? So maybe this is going forward. Fox will be showing all the pay-per-views from now on, and Showtime just won't, because they can't afford it anymore. Unless, of course, you put Wilder in with a Anthony Joshua, for an example. Then maybe they might just stump up the cash. But anyway, but as it proves, Eddie Hearn was absolutely correct. Showtime don't have the money. And Stephen Espinoza overpaid Wilder just to prove to Eddie Hearn that he had money. But it's backfired, hasn't it? His own bosses at Showtime are going, you did what? You ain't messing us about no more. And it's pretty obvious, pretty obvious. Go look at Stephen Espinoza's statement in the comments, in the description box, in the source article. Anyway, drop your thoughts below about it. Click thumbs up, subscribe. Catch you all on the next video.